Just before I get into my review and reaction, I just want to say one of the things I like about this episode is that it actually allows Boimler to be a hero. He's not being humiliated by Mariner. He embarrasses himself basically because he doesn't care about ego. He doesn't have any pride. He just wants to be a good officer, do a good job, and take care of his friends. And that's something Captain Freeman could learn from him because she is all about the status. Hello, Steve White, Trickboy89 for Steve Outs 89. I'm kind of shocked. I think I almost enjoyed this episode. I certainly didn't hate it. Nothing bad happened. Nothing that actually bothered me. Nothing that actually slapped me in the face as a Star Trek fan. It was actually fine. I'm like, wow, okay. Okay, so we have two main stories. The main story, of course, is that the Captain Freeman, is beaming down to the Pakleds to try and broker peace because she's already had experience with them. And this time the Pakleds are actually acting like Pakleds. They're actually imbeciles and they have no idea what they're doing. They send one of their people up with a shuttle to ask for was it when you ask the government to keep asylum, God. So he asks for asylum, but he's really just there trying to spy, and he's obviously ridiculously obvious about it. He's taking photos of things, and it's just obvious they are basically just like they were in Next Gen. Whereas when we saw them before, they almost seemed capable of managing the technology they'd stolen, and they didn't seem to be as stupid as they were originally. But no, these Pakleds are very stupid. And she's down the planet and she's asking someone, asking for someone to negotiate peace with, because basically they just keep saying, I don't have a big enough helmet, we need someone with a bigger helmet, because they just have the person with the biggest helmet is the leader. So they go through Queen, King, Emperor, and then there's a rebellion that comes in to overthrow the big helmet leaders, and then of course they pick up the helmet and then they're the leader. And she's like, oh. So eventually they just reveal themselves, what they were doing when the other Pakled returns, because he basically, he goes to the toilet in an airlock and gets shot out into space, but they revive him easily because 24th century technology can do that, unlike in other series where they apparently can't do anything. They save him, they send him back, and he's like, no, I was spying, I'm smarter than you. And they trick him into revealing, because he's like, I didn't reveal anything. And like, what didn't you reveal? And he's like, well, I didn't reveal that we're going to send this bomb to Earth. And they beamed away. And then they're all, you defeated Janeway, because they couldn't get it through their heads that she wasn't Janeway, because apparently they think there's only one female captain or something. So that's that story. The other story was more interesting. We had the Lower Decks crew being sent to do anomaly consolidation duty. Sorry, it is 3 a.m. in Australia. I am half asleep. And I don't know, as Tendi or Rutherford put them up for it because they thought it would be fun, because they don't get to go on away missions, but they get to basically clean up the research from the bridge crew that go on away missions. So they're just basically going through and hauling away all this stuff, and it's all dangerous and weird, and they're breaking things, knocking things over. There's nanites escaping, there's monsters just coming out of test tubes, and it's just a freak show. And Tindy's loving it, but the others are just whining, complaining the whole time. And eventually there's this really annoying moment when Mariner mariners, and she's like, this sucks, it's work, why are you enjoying this, what's wrong with you? And they break her down. Eventually she gets really miserable, and she actually picks up a cube which sort of absorbs her bad energy and turns her into a giant scorpion. So she goes running around the ship, and there's another part of the story that I should have went to first. Boimler gets pulled away from them and brought into the Red Shirts group, which is a group of people who are all vying to be commanders and captains, and they're trying to get themselves put up for the acting captain position, which is coming up soon. So they spend all this time building him up, changing his hair, getting him in a uniform that's all padded to make him look more masculine and all this stuff. And for a while, it actually looks good. It looks like, wow, they're actually treating him with some respect. They're actually not treating him like a fool. They're showing him how to take command and be in charge and take himself seriously. But then you eventually realise they're really just superficial. They're just vying for position. They're just full of hot air, basically. And when it actually comes to the point where, and of course he's dissing the other lower decks people the whole time and basically saying you're better than them, we're better than them. And Boimler, of course, being the amazing person that he is we're all members of Starfleet, we're all crew. And they're like, no, we are Starfleet. They work for Starfleet, basically. And he's like, no, we're all Starfleet. So he has a couple little speeches, and he actually inspires some of the other members of the Red Shirts to actually walk away from this guy. And there's a point where, of course, they all go into the mess hall where the Tindy Scorpion is, but they just stand there giving speeches and doing nothing. He actually knows that if he can make her laugh, it'll basically reverse the negativity effect or whatever that the cube absorbed or whatever and became part of her and turned her into the Scorpion. So he basically gets a bunch of food from the replicators and like makes a joke out of himself and makes her laugh, and then she goes back to normal. And of course they are like, oh, how dare you humiliate yourself like that, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I'm done with you people. And he's like, I don't even care if I get the position. So the others actually side with him. They actually are like, yeah, Starfleet is more than just pretending to be. He was like, you're just pretending to be other captains. You're just fake pretentious, basically. And they go with Boimler, and this guy walks off on his own, and he sees Ransom. He's like, I put myself up for the position. And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And he's like, oh my god. So he goes up on the bridge, and he gets about a moment to sit in the bridge chair, the main chair. And then the new bridge crew comes on for the next shift, and they kick him out and basically tell him to go clean up the Pakled mess in the airlock. So so you get to see Boimler actually sort of come into his own without becoming sort of fake, and actually stand up for himself and really show what Starfleet is about and show that these people are tossers. Whereas earlier in the first season, they seem to be the norm, and the other guys and Boimler seem to be the joke. So they seem to be reversing this and correcting this, because I think they got some criticism and they felt it and they heard it, and they're starting to correct it, because over the last few episodes the show has gone from what it was last season to something that doesn't, like I said, slap me in the face as a Star Trek fan. I actually enjoyed it. I actually laughed in a few places. Like there was this weird monster that was like made out of orange like jelly or something, and then it swallows Tindy and they pull her out of its butt, and then they stick the hypo spray in its butt and it just makes this noise. It was just funny, and I'm like, oh god, I'm laughing at this. But yeah, because there was nothing to distract me like that was offending me as a Star Trek fan, so I was actually just able to watch it, and there are some funny moments. It wasn't bad. And even though Mariner was her usual self, she got basically shut down a little bit, because they basically turned around and said, look, you're right, this is fun, we were being punks. So they seem to be reversing all the problems that there were with the first season, so I'm actually not hating it. So yeah, that's basically my review. It's actually a decent episode. It almost felt like Star Trek, and it felt kind of like what the show is supposed to be, where you're just sort of seeing the ship from one level, but they're still sort of showing the main adventure, but that's probably the only element where they're kind of failing, actually, because we're not really seeing that from there. We're sort of seeing they have a separate life from the bridge crew. We're seeing two stories each week rather than seeing that story from the lower decks. And because they sort of try to do that in a few episodes, it kind of works, but I guess the two-story format works better, where you just sort of see the main story and then what the lower deckers are doing, and they don't always relate. They don't always interact. They are sometimes just totally different stories. But yeah, I'm feeling better about the show. I mean, it looks like Star Trek. It sometimes feels like Star Trek. It's not doing any of the things that drove me nuts in the first season. So I'm actually feeling better, and I'm almost up to 10 minutes, so I better stop talking. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I'm almost looking forward to the next episode, because we've had 3 episodes in a row that didn't bother me, and this one I almost enjoyed. I'm like really kind of shocked, but it's good because I don't want to hate Star Trek. I don't want to hate Star Trek. It gives me more hope for Strange New Worlds, because if they can salvage Lower Decks, maybe Strange New Worlds can actually be good from the start. I'm feeling more optimistic. The same with Prodigy. I'm questioning with some issues with it. Picard and Discovery are, they're sort of set in stone, but these newer shows, I feel like they're actually more flexible and we actually have more chance of getting Star Trek out of them. But I'm going to go. Thanks. Bye.